And we're here at Sacrewell farm again, and I've got Stuart just here who's going to give us an update on our hedge laying project that he's been working on. So, how are things going, Stuart?
Going well. Now, can I just first of all say to Auntie Valerie, I've had the hair done, so you needn't worry any more about that. But back to what we're doing. We've now reached a stage here where we're actually binding in the top of the hedge, and that's to lock all our stakes together. So if we look along the line here, let me come. You hold.
Ooh, that way.
That way. Yeah. That's it. Here you can see the stakes. Here you can see the binders. And there is a technique to this. There isn't actually a defined technique. This is one that I was taught years ago, and I've basically passed it on. But the idea is that the binding locks everything together from the far end of the hedge, all the way to the far end, all the way then right the way down the hedge. And at no point is there a break in the binding. It's all actually held together, and it's all rotational. It's like having a great big rope that locks all these stakes together and actually makes a very rigid hedge. If you think about the days when this was done for the reasons it was done, which was a livestock barrier, of course then the livestock would push against the hedge, so you needed to make sure that it was fairly firm until such time it had grown up right from the bottom.
Brilliant. We're just going to have a quick closer look at that binding with the camera.
Well, what would be good would be we'd go and look at Mike down here, one of our volunteers who's actually doing some binding. So if we turn around now and head off to Mike.
We'll head down to Mike.
And see what he's up to.
Just turn the camera for the minute. And then we'll head down to Mike. So this is a tree that we're looking at last week. It's been nicely bound all around there. And this is the next section of hedge that they've been working on binding today. It looks great, Stuart. What is the material again that you were using for this binding on the top?
Well, we'll just see Mike now put one in place. This is actually hazel.
Yeah.
They're anywhere between 3 and 4 metres long. You can probably see some idea of the extent of the length of this. As Mike is holding it. Can you see?
Yeah, we can see.
So now what he's going to do is going to tuck it into the hedge behind his next stake. Every one of these stakes has a binder behind it. He's then going to twist it into what we call the tails. Okay. And that has the
Stuart, if you come around here, it'll be better if you're on this side for the microphone. Okay. Sorry.
So what he's doing now, he's twisting it around this bottom tail, and he's going to lock it all together, which is what the twisting will do. Okay. He's then going to pick it up, and he's going to put it over the next vacant stake. That's this one.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye on that stake.
He'll pull it back down inside the next one. There we are.
Looks challenging, this. Does it take a lot of effort?
It takes a fair bit of effort, yeah.
Quite a lot of arm strength involved, I can imagine. Oh, and fantastic.
Then he will straighten that stake up.
Wow.
And get ready for the next one. And in that way, he has a continuously locked together rope from one end of the hedge to the other. The stakes, incidentally, they are hazel stakes as well. You can use other materials. Sometimes ash, willow is also good for binding, but willow is no good for stakes. The reason being that as soon as you drive a willow stake into the ground, the chances are it'll root. So you end up with a willow tree.
And if we've got any Sacrewell regulars, we've just made a willow dome on site as well, which you can go and find, and we're hoping those willow stakes that we've put in the ground will root, so that dome will be a living sculpture.
And there's a fair chance that'll happen. Yeah, willow is very good for that sort of thing, but obviously no good to have a hedge, because all of a sudden we would we'll turn a hazel hedge into a lot of willow stumps.
Yeah. So, is this hazel from Sacrewell, or have we bought that in from elsewhere?
We haven't got sufficient hazel. We've got 1 or 2 what we call hazel stools at Sacrewell, but unfortunately we haven't got sufficient for what we need. What we are doing though, we are establishing a hazel coppice within the next couple of years. Yeah. And then once that gets going, which will probably be 5, 6, 7 years, we'll have a rotation then to be able to coppice that, and we shall have our own supply of hazel, both for the stakes and for the binders.
Brilliant.
So you might like to have a word with Mike.
Yep, so we'll
because he is now on his 3rd session here, Mike, yeah?
Third, yes. Yeah.
Third session, and he's got a little tale to tell before he gets in a terrible tangle with that. With that.
We'll wait till it's a good moment for him to stop, because that
Yeah,
looks
well,
like there's got to be critical moments in this binding process when
well,
you don't want to let go.
Not altogether, because what I've already told them is if they don't do it properly, I'll make them take it all to bits and do it again.
That's a bit mean.
Yeah, so we've got to get it sorted out.
Can I just say hi to Michael, who's watching, and says that he's a big fan of Sacrewell Farm, and then we will cross over and have a little chat with our other Mike that's here, that we've just seen doing some binding. I'm just going to turn the camera. And so, Mike, can you tell us a bit about what brought you, let's see if we can get the light so we can see both of us, just about, what brought you to Sacrewell Farm and got you involved in this hedge laying project?
Well, what got me here was I have at home an old field hedge at the bottom of my garden, which I was keen to lay and didn't know how to.
Yeah.
So in fact I pollarded it a couple of years ago. And my wife saw this opportunity here at Sacrewell, and she said, why didn't you apply to go on it? So I did, and here I am. And so I'm here to learn how to do hedge laying.
Brilliant.
Both from the perspective of my own interests, my own garden, but also from the point of view that my day job, I work on climate change, on adaptation to the impacts of climate change, and I worked for many years in conservation.
So how does hedge laying relate to climate change?
Yeah, a number of things. One, it's an old rural technique that uses very little fossil fuel, so you don't need a tractor and a flail mower to do the activity.
Yeah.
Also, it provides a good base for biodiversity, so you can actually increase the biodiversity of the hedgerow by increasing the thickness of the hedge and have to use less mechanical means to.
And so it'll create different niches within the hedge for different types of wildlife.
Right. Plus, also, one of the issues in terms of the effects of climate change on wildlife is that the landscape, as you can see in this area, is quite fragmented, and we've got to create new linear features in the landscape to allow wildlife to
travel.
To travel, yeah. So this is something that I'm actually currently involved in working on professionally. So another reason for being here is, to get some hands-on experience of actually how to do an old sort of rural craft, which could then be used. And I've actually, my colleagues that I've been working with in Germany on this, I've actually uploaded some information onto their website about this sort of technique.
Oh, brilliant.
So I've yet to see what it looks like. It was only last week I did.
So our work from Sacrewell is going international.
Yeah,
is that what we're saying?
yeah, that's right.
Excellent, Mike.
But it could, this sort of technique is it's a sort of technique that can be used, in sort of subsistence communities where they haven't got access to whole loads of machinery. So.
Yeah.
It's
all
great.
done using the hand tools.
And the other thing for me is I really got into it and I kind of like doing it. It's very therapeutic. So I think there may be opportunities that I've discovered where I can do a bit of hedge laying as well as doing the day job. So,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you very much for chatting to us about that. Would you recommend volunteering at Sacrewell to people?
Well, from my experience thus far, yeah, it's very good. And if you've got an interest in rural crafts, then this sort of thing is great.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll head back to Stuart. Any more to add today? Oh, let me get my camera, there we go. Stuart's a little bit taller than me, so we struggle with this height issue.
I'm more than a little bit, I'm miles taller. Not really. I think probably next week, or when we meet again, we'll actually have a little bit more of a closer look at actually cutting the pleachers, which is the stems. Yeah. Because I've already been chided from my previous fan club that we're not actually explaining enough about the technicalities.
So the pleachers were, if I turn the camera around,
the base of the pleachers. Let's go down to the end of the hedge where Mike's been working.
Okay, we're going to head a bit further. Careful filming and walking, because I don't want to trip up on any of these rocks or bits that we've been cutting off. Okay, so this is the end of the work so far.
Yeah, so this is where we've got to, and what we've actually got, if you swing just round here, this is one of our hazel, this is a blackthorn shrub.
Okay. Blackthorns, they make sloes, don't they, for slow gin?
They make sloes, and they also make very seriously septic fingers.
Oh dear.
Can be very nasty. And what we're doing now is we're turning this into this, which is a pleacher. So we're cutting through the stem to the point at which it bends over. There's one, can you see that?
Yeah, we can see that.
And a nice flexible stem,
Come
leaving
a bit closer.
as much material on the bottom as we possibly can, and that will shoot from the sides. We need to tidy this up a little tiny bit more, just to keep the water out, and that will then start to shoot along its length and further in the hedge. What you have to remember, of course, while this plant is now growing and it's getting over this massive bashing that it's had,
Yeah.
it's got to feed everything up that pleacher through that small section. So you know, we need to be as careful as we can, and that really is the trick with this, is getting the volunteers sufficiently accurate to be able to get these pleachers to lay over without actually overdoing it at the bottom.
And when you're cutting them, that would be using the tools we looked at last week?
The bill hooks, the axes, saws, cutting tools generally, but they're the three main ones.
Brilliant. So just to recap what you were saying, it will start to shoot from the cut piece that we will see?
To shoot from the sides here,
Yeah.
and it will also shoot along the length.
Yeah.
Then and come up. So this one will come up, and they'll all shoot through one another, and then they'll lock the hedge together, and eventually the stakes will rot off, and the binders will collapse. But by then we shall have what we're hoping is a nice A-shaped hedge, wide at the bottom, narrower at the top. And the reason for that is because we want small mammals, small birds to have a good habitat in the base of the hedge and be protected from predators.
Brilliant, lovely. So as Mike was saying, we're helping to reduce the impacts of climate change, and we're also, as Stuart's saying, helping to increase that biodiversity for the wildlife in the area.
Well, that's the plan.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Lovely. Just in case anybody thought it was snowing when I was talking to Mike, we do have a fire going on in the background. You might be able to see the smoke. So that wasn't snowflakes, that was flakes of ash coming off the fire.
On the ground.
Yeah.
That's better, there we are.
Shall we go and have a quick look at the
More
fire before we
volunteers
sign
doing
out,
this.
Stuart?
Well, if you wish, you don't need me to tell you how to start a fire. Perhaps you do.
Oh, you could, yeah. That would be interesting, I'm sure. We'll just go and see what's happening. You might be able to hear it crackling in the background. It's making a lovely noise, this fire. Here we go. So this is burning our extra stuff that we've cut the hedge. Is that right, Stuart?
Yep, this is getting rid of all our surplus material. We've also taken out some elder bushes which we didn't want in the hedge. They're fairly invasive, and we'll take away the nutrients and everything from the hawthorn which we want to grow, because they tend to be extremely spindly, and whilst the berries are good for, and the flowers are good for elderflower wine, and
Yep.
the berries are good for elderberry wine, I'm afraid they're no good to a hawthorn hedge. So we've taken those out and we're basically just burning them all up.
Lovely.
Some people say, well, why aren't we chipping it? Good
Yeah,
argument.
We talked about this in the first video, didn't we, Stuart?
I honestly can't remember. It seems so long ago since we started this little caper. Possibly we did. But I mean, strictly speaking, what we're doing here by burning is we're just returning the carbon that these plants have extracted from the atmosphere as they've grown, and we're basically just replacing it. So it is effectively, I am fully understand, is a carbon neutral practice.
Brilliant. I'll tell you what, it's nice and warm to be stood next to on a February day.
Ideal day, nice hot fire, little smoke now, we're not interfering with anybody, and it will be a very good clean up, nice and tidy. And next time we come, all this that we've seen alongside the hedge should all be completely gone and all neat and tidy again.
Brilliant. So we'll look forward to seeing the tidy area and continuing the work on our lovely hedgerow here next time. If you're coming to visit Sacrewell over the half-term holiday, then make sure you do check out the hedgerow as you're driving in. It's looking very nice and smart. We've got lots of events coming up with that. Until next time, thank you very much, Stuart.
You're more than welcome.
Bye.
See you again.